Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Kev for your Lions Raw match reaction show. Make sure you smash the like button, guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 5K. We've had some great support over the last few days in terms of subscribers, so we want to keep that momentum going. So like, subscribe, and obviously get your comments flowing about yesterday's game. We always do these kind of match reaction shows reflecting on some of the performances a day or so later, just to look at other results as well. And some of those results have obviously gone for us in a lot of ways, and also probably just to calm down a bit after the performance. But Kev, good to see you, mate. You were obviously at the game as well yesterday. So before we get into a lot of the talking points, how was the game, being live in the stadium, your general thoughts?
Well, hello, Rich. Hello, everybody else. It's certainly an experience that I've always wanted to have, to go into obviously an unbelievable stadium like Anfield. It's obviously something which is one of the big clubs in the world, and I've done massive stadiums like St Andrews, LOLs, Man United. I've been to big clubs like Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City. Although you get my point. But this is one of the iconic ones. So to do it, to take my lad, it was a great experience. Great view, it particularly I thought was good having a chance to go to a night game, because normally, really, you get some of those iconic nights at Liverpool in the European competitions, but you don't often get that many night games against a certain team, less necessarily that you can go to. So great experience for all of that. But the most important thing for me was how are Aston Villa going to perform, which obviously we'll get into. But atmosphere was good. It just is always better, isn't it, under the lights, a little bit cold in the air. I thought we acquitted ourselves pretty well, but one we will get amongst all of the talking points, I'm sure, mate.
Well, that's it, and I do think, as a general rule, as a performance and a tactical plan, and being still posing some sort of threat to Liverpool, still being in the game, I thought it was, it was far better than the second half performance against Tottenham. The first half performance was well organised against Tottenham. It was a far, far better performance than the one against Bruges, which was, out of the three, probably out of the four defeats, was comfortably our worst performance. And yeah, like you say, it was almost a plan that was executed, pretty well. I thought, we competed pretty well with Liverpool, albeit I would probably say, had Villa got into the game, whether they were 1-0 up or whether they got it back to 1-1, I did still feel there was a gear or two in Liverpool to move through, and that would have probably meant that they would have carried on and gone on probably to win the game anyway.
Yeah, but let's not forget their second goal was 84 minutes. So it was quite late in the game, and that they were leaving it pretty close to. There was a point where I was thinking, I reckon we're going to get back into this, and we've got a chance of nicking the winner. And to consider they're top of the Champions League and top of the Premier League, and for us to be in a situation where you can have a bit of confidence that you might do that, some of the stats I was checking out for the game sort of after the event, I think they had 14 shots to our 12, touches in the box 30 from them to 28 to us. So we were absolutely in the game in terms of the right areas of the pitch. And I don't care who you are, you could be Real Madrid or Barcelona, or, going to Anfield and losing a match against them quite convincingly. You touch on the other performances, and I think we have to look at this whole situation in context. Sure, it's disappointing to have 4 defeats in a row, right? No one's making any kind of excuses for that. I did put out my my prophetic sort of tweet today saying, I had a seer, like a somebody who can predict the future come to me a month ago and say we're going to have exactly the same results as Man City in the next 4 games, I would have been delighted. Arsenal, I think, have only won a couple in the last 6. Same for maybe Chelsea. So clearly it's a competitive league. And look, of those 4, one's a Carabao Cup defeat, much changed team. A lot of players hardly played any football, bit part players against a full strength Palace team. We could have won that game. We didn't play great. Bruges, terrible performance, but we lost it on a freak penalty, crazy scenario. Again, you're not playing well enough to win, but you can go away in Europe, and if you don't play to your best, you could lose. Spurs could blow anybody away, as they did to us in that second half, but then they've also lost to Palace before, and Ipswich afterwards at home. Obviously, today as well, a defeat. So, and then you're going to Anfield, and of course, you could easily look at any team this season. Man City could lose if they played Liverpool and Arsenal. Sorry, Liverpool, Spurs back to back in away games. So I've been looking at that in context. The most disappointing thing has been the level of performance. I just think, particularly going forward, we are pretty toothless, and we saw plenty of that yesterday again against Liverpool. And that's the disappointment for me when you're shipping goals that you shouldn't be shipping, and you're not scoring many of the chances that you're creating, and in some games not creating that many. That's the recipe for not getting many wins, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And like internally, I will go some comments in a second, everyone. But the way when you're rationalising it, there, I'm finding it so difficult, to not jump in and say yes, but this is not good enough. I don't care what any other team are doing, and that kind of makes it worse. That we've not. Yes, you can say like, oh well, we played an understrength team against Crystal Palace, but the point of playing the understrength team against Crystal Palace was to put in a better performance against Tottenham, and we didn't. And then you want to go to Bruges and then build on the or get the confidence back after that disappointment at Tottenham, and players that need to push themselves into the first team picture didn't do that. And then you go into Liverpool. Yes, we got it tactically right, but again, we'll talk about some of the points in a second. But we just didn't. Yes, we were in the game, but it was almost like a performance of an Aston Villa side under a Dean Smith era, or under a dare I say it, a Gerrard era, where we're just staying in the game. We're not a top 4 Villa going to them and matching them toe to toe. It was like, yeah, if we can stay in the game and maybe nick something, we'll be all right.
I think that is a fair point, right? And look, I'm not excusing it and saying I'm happy. I am ever the optimistic Villa fan, and I have always been, on this pod. And I really do look at it as well. I can say in context and in isolation that you could lose to Liverpool and Spurs away, you change your team for Palace, and then you have a bad result in Europe. Putting those together in a row, 4 defeats for a team with designs on winning a trophy this season and finishing top 4 is not good enough. There's no doubt about it. There is a real concern for our attacking play, and defensively this season we haven't been great, have we? Let's be honest. And we don't know our best combinations, and we're weak, and there's issues everywhere. And I'm happy to talk about the issues, and I'm certainly not going to be on here tonight saying everything's fine. Look, it is a tight table. There's only 7 points separating separating West Ham to third in the league. West Ham are like, you're 13th, 14th, whatever it is. So, there's a lot of teams congested, but I look at this as a real missed opportunity. I was saying before the Liverpool and Spurs games, like, you're losing a 1-0 lead to Bournemouth at home, unforgivable, right? You're not beating Ipswich. I don't care, home or away, difficult games, but when you were leading in that game, right? You can't beat Man United of Ten Hag at home because you don't create enough. And what was the other one we didn't win? We should have got a performance from. I can't remember. Arsenal, yeah. I mean, again, you look at that Arsenal and Liverpool game in sort of back to back. Arguably, could have got more out of both games. Yeah, you can blame the referee and stuff like that. But for me, the biggest points dropping was you've dropped 2 at Bournemouth, you've dropped 2 against Man United, you've dropped 2 against Ipswich, and we were leading against Spurs in what was in that first half a very professional, classic Villa away performance. And if you add 2, 4, 6 of those draws we talked about to that, even taking into account the defeats by Liverpool and obviously Spurs, you add 6 points to our total. We're sitting on 24 points and we're second in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point of the league being so tight is that other teams will absolutely have those games that they've lost or they've dropped points into to point to as well. So that's the situation that we're in at the moment with the league as it is. Few comments coming in. Nick says, "Evening chaps, first time ever. I think the international break has come at a good time. The squad need a rest and
I agree.
refocus."
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
definitely.
Yeah.
Villa Van says, "Hi guys, much better performance last night. We just couldn't get the end ball. The ref was very one-sided. We'll
True.
definitely talk about the ref soon." Danny said the 2 goals we conceded was Sunday league stuff. It's about time we saw our defence huge issue since January. Both goals came from that. Yeah, absolutely. Aaron's in the chat as well. Well, he's not happy. He's not happy about Unai Emery. Well, there was a few calls about Unai Emery in the chat. I don't think we're quite there yet. Even to you, Ronan, even to you, PJJ. Very happy that you're back. Very happy. And yeah, we are going to talk defense in a second. But Adam sort of says there 2 shots on target for us and relied on set piece, and we've got no pace up top. And something that I sort of mentioned before the season started, and it kind of tempered down when we had the start to the season that we had, and substitutions were being made and they were really effective, and then Ollie Watkins kind of played himself into a bit of form. But I always thought I could see in pre-season the patterns, or should I say the lack of patterns of play that we had moving forward, and just the kind of disjointedness of the way that we were trying to play. If I think back to the pre-season before, there was a real identity and a real set structure about how Unai Emery wanted to play and how those players were going to fit into it. And I do feel like with some of the restrictions that have been put on him in terms of, Luiz going and Moussa Diaby going in the background, and 1 or 2 other players that were, rumored to be leaving, Diego Carlos and 1 or 2 others. I just don't know whether the effectiveness of his pre-season was able to be carried out. And I could just see in those games just the lack of fluidity in us going forward. There were so many passes that were going off, lack of movement of players. And then obviously Ollie Watkins and 1 or 2 of the other international players didn't come back in till the end of pre-season. So yes, we got through it with some of the substitutions that were being made. Duran just bursting on the scene and winning games for us out of nothing. But you can now see that this toothlessness that we've got up front, this lack of ruthlessness that we got up front, this lack of fluidity in terms of movement, Bailey not quite knowing where he's going, Ollie Watkins, no movement off the shoulder of the centre backs, relying on Morgan Rogers to try and beat 3 men and then thread it through of a defence splitting pass that he's never going to be able to do. Probably he's going to do it 1 time out of 10. The play down the left-hand side, Luca Dean can put a good cross in, but he never gets to the byline. Just so many things that we're not quite doing. And I just go back to that pre-season where I remember saying before the season started, I worry about us going forward. I worry about the disjointedness. And it was like, oh, don't worry, pre-season is just about fitness. It's just about this. It's just about that. But I couldn't see the patterns of play. And this is the time now where I'm seeing it come to fruition that we haven't yet got that. Now it might come down the line a bit later in the season, but I'm just worried about our attacking play going forward because we're just not creating anything and no one's moving into position, no one's taking responsibility.
Well, you know what? I was thinking this about probably 4 or 5 games ago when we'd not just lost 4 in a row, and we were hearing the whole best start was it in 28 years, no goals conceded and 3 wins in a row in the Champions League, and it's all looking pretty rosy. And other than a defeat to Arsenal, which obviously could happen to anybody, I think it was the draw to Ipswich at that point. We'd won every game we'd played this season. But I remember thinking, like, we're not playing great. And isn't this kind of reassuring? Because once we have inevitably kick in to the form that we've shown under these 2 years of Unai, 2 points a game average, pretty much. Probably been hit that has been the last few weeks. Although 2 of those games were only the league games, so we might just be about there. But I thought, well, we'll kick into form. And my God, this top 3 charge I think we're going to make is on. Because I'm not really that bothered. I mean, it's almost my point's been proven that Man City are actually a bit infallible and Arsenal aren't all that, and Chelsea is still a bit inconsistent. It's been proven by their results. It's just that we've decided to give them a bit of hope as well. But I did know and I did see and I did fear that it's not that convincing. It's not that convincing at all. I thought we played actually quite well at that game you and I were at, obviously at the London Stadium. I thought we looked pretty good in that game and certainly a really good, performance to get that win. And we're thinking, here we go. Season starts here. And Arsenal was encouraging, although a bit rustiness from Watkins. But I don't think, other than maybe Bologna, I thought we played pretty well in spells. I don't really think we've played that well in many games this season. There was moments against Liverpool last night.
Yeah.
And the point you say about being toothless, let me finish his point, mate, is I think it looks unconvincing going forward now. Totally unconvincing. If you look at the situation with, sorry, I've got a Great Dane. Just could jump next.
Let's get him involved.
Remember all the Great Dane fans? There you go. There he is. He's just been eating some raw meat, so I don't really want it all over me. And he's had a 10K walk today, so he's
maybe the players could do with a bit of raw meat, get him back. Get him back firing.
Yeah. Do you know what the players do need though? A bit of his single-mindedness when he sees another dog. He's at him that you wouldn't believe it. No, if you look at the whole thing about the attacking play, I think it's unconvincing. And I think we all thought there was going to be another player coming in. Obviously, there was Felix linked at someone, and maybe you can piece it all together. Rodgers is always going to be inconsistent. I think he's been great generally considering, but this was a guy that a year ago he said so in his recent interviews couldn't get consistency, in playing in Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough team. And Bailey seems to have been hypnotised and forgotten about the last 12 months of football he's played, and he still thinks he plays for Steven Gerrard. And Watkins is not the Watkins that he was. Doesn't seem to be holding the ball up very well. Doesn't seem to be having his shooting's been shocking lately. Duran, great coming off the bench, but you're going to struggle to have that level of impact.
He's coming on now, and he's touching the ball probably 4 times.
Exactly.
He's getting no touches of the ball whatsoever.
Philogene, I don't think I've seen do one single positive forward play, phase of play this season at all. I think he was great against Bayern in a defensive role. And our best attacking player for me has probably been Ian Maatsen. And he's our sub left back that comes on. You could argue that point, couldn't you? I think in terms of players of creating stuff. But if you look at certainly Philogene and Bailey, the wide players, I just think it's been hugely disappointing. And it seems like we're predictable. It seems like we're finishings all over the shop. It seems like we rarely beat the first man in a delivery going into the box. It's just not great at the moment. I'm confident it will change, but something needs to change massively with it.
Yeah. David said teams are wiser on us and more physical. J.M. Smethwick says, I'm just glad the blip is at the beginning of the season. I'm sure Unai will turn it around. Danny said it's a must we get Kamara in that starting 11. He's too good to sit on the bench. We're going to come to that in a second because I think that's a big thing as well. He also says we look a bit one-dimensional and out of ideas. So you are correct. And I'll come back to Rodgers in a second because I put a tweet out, saying it's almost like everything at the moment is going through or is being instructed to go through Morgan Rodgers. And it's too much to put on a kid who's 22. And I know Emery's been big on sort of him not being called up to the under-21 squad. I'm pretty sure he'll be pulled out of that squad and told to rest. But even so, just mentally, like even physically, if he can do it mentally, it's really difficult to kind of put that pressure on him. But I also think, and George might have alluded to this, or one or two people in the comments might have alluded to this, that we seem to have abandoned our high line for whatever reason. And we're now defending 10 to 15 yards deeper, which in turn is going to affect the attacking players, which, yes, they can all do more, right? Leon Bailey can certainly do more. Ollie Watkins can certainly do more, particularly when he does get an opportunity to shoot. But if you're 10 to 15 yards deeper, that means that the two midfielders in Yuri Tielemans and Onana are picking up the ball 10 to 15 yards deeper. and then the ball's going to Morgan Rogers because it has, we want to go through the line. So it's then going to him, just inside our own half most of the time. He's then got to run past 2 or 3 players to then play the ball to Leon Bailey or play the ball to Ollie Watkins. By the time he's done that, 2 players or the defensive line have already got back. The midfield player who's been beaten has already recovered. So they've just got further. They've got too far to go to try and get into engineer a chance to try and score. It's just too. It seems like there's too many players to get through. Like when you see your son playing under 10s or under 11s, and the through ball goes through, and they seem like they're through, and they're running with the ball, and they beat 2 men, but then the kids that have already been beaten already run around them and get in the box and then tackle them before they're about to shoot. It's like that with Villa. Like I totally agree that Bailey, Rogers at times, Ramsey at times, and Watkins should be doing more. But they're receiving the ball probably 40 to 50 to 60 yards away from goal rather than receiving the ball 30 yards from goal, beating the man and then being able to shoot. It's too difficult.
Well, it's something you say to kids, isn't it? When you teach them, like the ball moves faster than running with it, but the ball can move quicker than anybody else. And it's something I've actually said to my lad. It's funny you bring it up. Like you can't do too much. I think the one thing that taxes me when I play football, right? Certainly, not a Premier League level by some stretch, right? Is if I have some kind of physical tussle, right? This Morgan Rogers thing now, where because he's obviously an absolute unit. I'm getting prodded here by Great Dane. If I take my hand off him, he does this. So like I have to just keep touching him. If I'm playing football and I kind of get in a tussle where I'm kind of trying to wrestle someone off me a little bit and I'm get them out of the way to run past them, it takes it out of you. And if you're doing that 15, 20 times a game, whatever it is, because you're like, oh, Morgan's a big lad and he's strong. He can hold off Van Dijk and then hold off Konate. It's no wonder when he gets to the edge of the box. I always thought this was a bit of a crap theory, but I think it's actually true now. He gets near the goalpost and he's absolutely whacked. Like he hasn't got the energy to kind of finish the move off. Bailey, like I don't even know at the moment. I mean, he's got the odd ball in the box. I know he's doing the odd thing, and I know you kind of defend him a little bit.
No, I absolutely agree with you. But like I said, the point that I've just made is before he was receiving the ball and he'd be 1v1 with the fullback. And he drops the shoulder and goes, right? And now there's times yesterday where he was probably 1v1 with the fullback and he didn't, and he went back and I was trying to throw whatever at the TV. But the point still stands for Bailey and for Ollie Watkins to a certain extent. They've got too much distance to go before the end product is expected. So what you're asking for Bailey is he's quick off the mark. So you're asking him to front up the defender, drop the shoulder, go inside or outside, and then whip a shot in or whip the cross in. But at this moment in time, he's receiving the ball 10 to 15 yards deep before the penalty box. You're asking him to beat the man. Then by the time that's happened, the other midfielder, the corresponding left midfielder, has got back and doubled up on him. So he has to try and beat him too. So then it then becomes a battle for him to try and keep the ball. And as we know, physically he's not the strongest. So if he does manage to pass the ball back to Conter, it's probably a difficult pass, or he's had to try and physically fight him off, or he ends up losing it and goes out of play, and then we all get pissed off with him. So, and then it's the same with Ollie Watkins, particularly against Konate and Van Dijk. He's probably going to get 2 opportunities to get past them. And what you want is him in the opportunity to beat the man and then have the shot, not to beat the man and have to carry on running 3 or 4 strides and then try and have the shot. They've got too much to do. And that happened against Tottenham. It's happened in other games, even at home. It's happened. And I just don't understand why we aren't pressing higher. Like, it doesn't seem that our defense is particularly slower than last year. I just don't understand why we're doing it.
Well, I think the highline thing is because we were getting caught out a few times, weren't we? There was a couple of games where we got absolutely smashed with it. Obviously, that Spurs game at home was a big one, and I think they thought maybe we'll be a bit more cautious with that. The pressing thing's an interesting one, actually, because one thing that Liverpool are great at actually is pressing from the front, isn't it? And it felt like we had so little time on the ball. And I think your point absolutely stands that Do you know what? The attacking play right now is too far from goal. I totally agree, right? It's so unconvincing. They don't look like they actually have confidence in what they're doing. They seem reluctant to shoot, which is another thing. I don't think the runs are particularly very good. The final ball's been terrible. I mean, as you mentioned, I think you alluded to that when Rogers were. I mean, I was at the other end of the pitch, but he tried to flick it, I think, through to Duran. It kind of caught the player's leg or here, and it's like, God, that was on, basically. Like, what are you doing? And I just look at it, I think the combination of everything is right now we are so predictable as attacking players. You know, we've obviously scored a few from set pieces and a few headers and all that kind of stuff, but we haven't pieced together much football where you think about last season, some of the goals, that Leon Bailey goal against Man City, that team move, that John McGinn goal against Arsenal. You think about some of the marauding performances early season when we did that 15 in a row at home. You know, the 4-1 against West Ham, who are obviously a good team, the 6-1 against Brighton. You know, so many great performances, and it just feels at the moment I don't feel like we're going to blow anybody away. I don't feel like
No.
we've got that confidence. Are we just one big win away from the confidence coming back? I want to make one point here, by the way. I thought Ramsey was really good in that first half compared to everybody else. At least having a go, running with the ball, making ground, but he seemed like he had minimal options when he then got past the player. I think Watkins' confidence is low. Bailey's confidence is low. Philogene, from an attacking perspective, confidence is low. I think you can see we're missing Barkley even to come on and change the game. We're missing Louise. We're missing, I can't believe I'm saying this, Moussa Diaby and his pace and his ability to create stuff. And we're missing whatever has happened to Leon Bailey of 23, 24.
Yeah, I do think even if you had Moussa Diaby in this team, the way it's playing at the moment, he'd be completely ineffective. He'd be
Yeah.
completely ineffective. It's more to do with the gaps between the defense, that first line of midfield, and then those attacking players. And
Yeah.
I do think there's an element of the way that we're asking Rodgers to do stuff is it's meant that the way that what we're asking Bailey to do has changed, and Bailey's literally becoming like a conventional right midfielder, and he's doing so much more the other way than he would have been doing, you know, going forward and playing off Ollie Watkins. It seems to be that space in that middle area is just Morgan Rogers' space. It's not Leon Bailey's, and that's causing an issue with him because he's getting isolated. So it's a balance thing. I'm by no means sort of accommodating their performances because they have any of the three have not done enough at all, and Rodgers has been quite inconsistent the last few games as well. So I'm not excusing anything at all, but it's just trying to see where that balance comes in between what we're asking the three or those four attacking players to do. Because, like you say, Ramsey's was getting into positions the last two games where he was actually beating his man and getting into positions, but then he was maybe too reluctant to shoot, or he didn't have anyone to pass to, and then you've wasted it. So I don't know. I just think we need to go back to kind of that higher line. If it is high risk football, if we are going to concede goals, so be it, because we're conceding a lot of goals as it is at the moment. So I don't really see how much of a difference it's going to make. One point I will make in a second before I'll get some comments first, though. Villa fan says, afternoon, lads. I personally thought we played well. For me, what lacked yesterday was our finishing. The set pieces were really poor again, and the officiating was questionable. Adam said, I hate having no left winger. Ramsey and McGinn can't take a man on consistently. Sai AVFC said, we did the same with Jack, and it makes us easier to defend against as they know everything and who we're trying to find. David said highline changes because teams knew how to catch us. Potentially, but I do think it made us more of an attacking threat. Lewis said, I agree, Rich. The spaces between the midfield and the attackers are too far apart, and that's down to the defence being so far back. Smedic Villain said, yes, Rich, until you just said it, I hadn't noticed, but we're dropping deeper, aren't? And now you've said it, we're not catching teams offside nowhere near as much as last season. Can we not play both Dino and Maatsen? I thought that as well. I thought he could play right midfield as well. John, a Liverpool fans in the chat, said, as a Liverpool fan, I expected more from Watkins and Onana. Maatsen's still a top four challengers team. I hope so. Kay says, we seemed like we were playing nervously. How many players do have genuine pace? It's a really good question.
Well, do you know, I thought really that when Leon Bailey is supposed to be our pacey winger, was trying to chase back against Salah, and he was absolutely nowhere near him. and he actually was ahead of him when he first started running. And I know Salah is quick, but Bailey was supposed to be an absolute rocket, wasn't he?
Yeah. Aaron said if we lose to Palace, we riot.
Aaron, I am worried, to be fair, mate. If we lose to Palace, I'm worried about that. Palace now is almost feels like it's our biggest game of the season. Unai's job is riding on this. I am joking, but I am joking about that point for anyone jumps in. But it to lose 5 in a row, it's the pressure on that game now, big time.
It's a lot. Now, this is a question I was going to come to with Kamara and Onana, because Adam said, is Onana good? I honestly can't decide. And I actually thought he played pretty well yesterday. I just don't think what we're asking him to do, and I think he's gradually getting used to what he is being asked to do, but is that curtailing his game? And ultimately, is that just making way for Boubacar Kamara to come back in? Because I think just having him in the team, fully fit Boubacar Kamara in the team, will just alleviate so many of these issues in terms of being able to play a bit more of a higher line, having someone who reads the game so well and covers in certain positions, allows the right back to go forward, or even the left-sided player to go forward, because he will just filter back in and cover in at the centre-back position if we shuffle around. So, yeah, it's just, is Kamara that missing piece to allow us to be able to kind of go back to normal, in inverted commas, or is Onana kind of going to have to learn how to operate in that role, or do we see him going further forward and using his power and his height and his running with the ball ability?
I think Onana has been started off really well, got a few goals. That's obviously a real positive. And I think actually lately, I think he's been okay. I thought he was one of our better players against Spurs. Probably, I thought he actually played okay yesterday as well. In moments, but the problem with him is that I think sometimes he's almost a bit too leggy to be effective defensively. Like, I feel like maybe he hasn't got, he's maybe not as nimble and as agile.
Yeah,
And
he's going to have a foul in him. Yeah,
exactly. And then going forward, he's not generally threading the pass through the eye of the needle, bursting past someone with pace. He's got power to do marauding runs, and he's obviously physically imposing and good in the air. But I don't know if he's necessarily adding that much value to the team right now, and maybe he's become almost a bit more of a weak link, dare I say it. Kamara, for me, I said this to my mate driving to the game yesterday. I would have Kamara in that team all day long. I actually thought about maybe playing a double pivot of Kamara and Onana.
He's our best player. He's our best player.
He's quality,
when he's fully fit, he's our best player.
Yeah, for me, no doubt about it. He starts. For me, he absolutely starts in that team. I think that there's a situation with him where he's got the ability to bring the ball forward. He mops up play really well. He's reading the games great. I think he's calm on the ball. I think it's almost essential now. If you've got no Luiz and you've obviously got no Kamara, then maybe we're feeling that more than we thought we would, with obviously the replacements in. So I'm absolutely on the Kamara in bandwagon. Absolutely.
I just think it will allow us to relax a bit more in that midfield and be able to have that higher line. And yeah, if need be, you can play Onana further forward, or even Tielemans further forward, because there's still question marks for me over John McGinn. There is. I just don't know if we're seeing his age now coming through, and maybe it just takes him too many games to get up to full speed. It used to take him maybe one game and then we'd see them again. Now it's probably 3 or 4, and you just don't have that time anymore. I'm not saying he's not a valuable player, and he came on and did okay yesterday, but we talk about pace. He isn't going to get beyond a player and beat a man and then put it in the top. He's just not going to do that. So I don't know. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one.
I also think an obvious one for me now is, if you look at all the things that the players have got attributes wise, Rodgers can go past someone, right? He's got strength and pace and power to do that. The issue, as we've discussed, is doing it 3-4 players in a row. It's too much. I don't know why. Maybe his best position ultimately will be that kind of marauding number 10. But when Bailey's playing as poorly as he is, why not just put Rodgers where Bailey is, playing wide, which obviously he's played before, and then you've got an opportunity to put Kamara in the team or to put someone else in the team that may well create something, whether that is a fit Barkley, whether that's a Buendia, whether that's whoever it might be, right? Someone in the team that or to play Duran maybe, as an option, whatever. But I think at the moment with Bailey in the team, I think we are absolutely lacking. If Watkins is off form and Bailey's not playing very well, and I think Rodgers could be put there, at least I think he'd go at a man. I think he could take someone on.
Yeah, but I think Bailey's been asked to stand out on the right hand side, and we're not giving him the ball. So
Yeah,
if you ask Rodgers to do that,
but when he's getting the ball,
he ain't going to get the ball.
But
The
when he's getting the
problem
ball,
is
he's unconvincing, isn't he? Let's be clear. When he
no,
getting the ball,
absolutely. I'm not saying he's not. What I'm saying is though, away from home, you're going to get probably 8, 6, 7 opportunities max, right, on the ball, particularly in wide positions. So it's very difficult to make something like that count every time you get the ball. And if you, well, the point I was going to make is, I don't know if it matters what personnel you put at right midfield or left, because he played Rodgers off the left against Bruges and he was crap, and he played McGinn in central and he was crap. So it's what they're asked to do within those positions, and I don't know why at the moment. It's just they seem extremely restricted in what they're being allowed to do.
Yeah.
If Bailey's out on the right, fine. If Rodgers is in the middle, fine. If Watkins is up top, fine. But let them interchange positions. And I think having Kamara and Tielemans, or Kamara and Onana as that base in midfield, will allow them to do that more, because I think Unai will have more security in a Kamara being able to mop things up and win the ball win second balls in midfield and all that than he does at the moment with Onana and Tielemans. He's asking players just to stay in their position. So I think he's a bit worried about what happens, when we lose the ball, if players are out of position. I don't know why, but he just seems that that's the case. So that's what it is for me. I think it's just, yeah, it's just disjointed in that attacking area, and I don't know why they're not. There's no fluidity when there always was. There was so much fluidity. That's what we used to say. Like, Bailey would pop up in areas, Rodgers would pop up, McGinn would pop up, or Ramsey, or we'd have overlapping fullbacks. There's been none of that whatsoever.
Do you know the thing as well with it, right, is that with the kind of the Bailey point as well, is that I remember last season when obviously he was just a totally different player. He rarely gave the ball away. He rarely didn't deliver a good cross. He rarely didn't not complete a take on of a player. I mean, he was every time. He seemed to always get past his man, at least to get a cross off. And it seems like every aspect of his game is off at the moment. Watkins was usually unerring with his shooting. Absolutely. Would be hitting the target constantly, and obviously having way more success this season. You've got to look at opportunities and chances and think, you know what, that one he dragged last night was just such a disappointment to get a really good opportunity of shot right near the away fans on target. Tielemans, I think, has gone off the boil a little bit as well. I think he's been giving the ball away the last 2 games more than I've seen him do it at any point of his Villa tenure. And I also think the other thing to talk about is, from a physicality perspective, we were crying out for an Onana type character, right? But I actually think if you look at some of our players now, I saw it yesterday one point when Tielemans was running back at someone. I just thought he doesn't seem as physically kind of powerful as they are. Obviously, Bailey doesn't seem like he's as physically powerful as he was. Rodgers is getting a bit tired out because he's trying to do too many take-ons. And you look at a situation.
Philigine's weak, Nedeljkovic weak.
Ramsey's obviously had his injury problems. I thought Ramsey played really well last night, but he's obviously gone down with an injury again. And then you look at it and think, are we maybe a little bit like almost boys versus men when you've got the marauding Diaz, Nunez, Salah, Gakpo kind of going forward? Their attack, admittedly they're at home, right? But their attack looked like every time it went forward, like something was going to happen, like they could make something happen. And we look quite toothless in attack.
We did. We totally did. Got to shout out Carl there for the super chat. Time to play Nedeljkovic. Konsa offers no attacking threat. Help from the right. Time to play Tielemans at the 10. And Kamara and Onana. Good show up the Villa. Thank you very much. Ronan also asked, we need to get Kamara in the team. Yes. Is it 3? It's time for 3 at the back. Konsa Mings Pau. with Kamara, Onana and Tielemans, Bailey and Maatsen, Rodgers and Watkins. Potentially there. Scotty said we need desperately to break past teams and get behind. Massive problems. Kay, could there be a case for having Onana, Kamara and Tielemans and Barkley in the middle to try and shore things up a bit and add calm in the midfield? Scotty says Bailey doesn't deserve any more play to get in games. He's in this 4th season and time to make a decision in the transfer window. Could well be. Adam said Conte playing right back doesn't really help Bailey going forward either.
Yeah,
Square
true.
pegs,
It is
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, let's go on to the defense now, because Conte at right back is literally a centre back playing at right back, and it shows. He hasn't got the reading of the game, because when there's a long diagonal ball, it goes over his head. And it's not fair on him, because he's having to switch from right centre back thought processes to right back thought processes. When he's running with the ball forward, he can't see the passes to make. He doesn't make any overlapping runs of Leon Bailey. He doesn't. If Bailey does pass it, lay it off to him, pass it back, then Bailey doesn't know what run to make, because he doesn't know if he's going to get the ball back. Like, it's literally like the centre back playing right back. That's what he is, and it's not fair on Conte to be like a centre back just doing a job at right back. You might as well try Nedeljkovic. You might as well try Bogard. Like, you might as well put Maatsen out there. He can play right back. Like, why are we doing this when he's a better centre back? Because Carlos has always got a mistake in him. He's always uncertain. He makes Torres look uncertain as well. It just doesn't make any sense to me why we're doing this.
Yeah, so the argument on the other side is that you look at Man City with their kind of like 4 centre-backs and how well they've played, like, using the defensive strength. You look at Emery with the likes of Juan Foyth and, players he's played as that hybrid centre-back, right-back, and giving the solidity to the back line as well, with the ability to still be fairly effective. Do you gain more than you lose in that position? But I think we've seen enough now to know that, admittedly, Bailey hasn't been great. Even if a long ball goes over to him when a Conte's nowhere near him, he's still not been doing some good stuff. But we've got, as you've said, Nedeljkovic. Maybe he's young, maybe he's raw, but what are you losing? I think the same thing. Surely Maatsen can play right back. If a left-footed winger can play on the right wing, then surely a left-footed left back can play on the right back. Is there any difference in terms of the pros and cons?
And his pace as well. You've got, Dini's playing well, so you keep him at left back. I mean, he struggled yesterday, admittedly, but you've then got you've got more of a threat down the right, surely.
Yeah, do you know the other thing I was going to say as well? I feel like now he's back to fitness. I actually feel it would be more effective if you want to play that hybrid centre back position to play Mings on the left, because I think Mings, if he's up to speed with his power, actually could be. I think you could maybe play Mings, Torres, Konza, and then maybe a Cash or a Nedeljkovic. Then you maybe play Maatsen further forward in some games. You've got options there, I think, to vary it. But I think if you're looking, as you say, maybe not Bogart. I'm not sure I'm convinced by that as well. I think he's more of I think he's like a lesser Konza doing that.
Yeah.
But Maatsen or Nedeljkovic or Cash to give you that kind of at least that right-footed option. And I think if you're lacking the right-footed option of attacking wise, this is the thing I think does hold us back this season. Dini's deliveries, yesterday I thought his deliveries were good. I thought he did some good crosses. But if you've got Konza giving you not much going forward on the right, and Dini isn't getting to the byline much, I think if you've got a situation where you've got Cash, fine, you can go with the Dini, whatever scenario, or Nedeljkovic if you're going to do that. But I think if you've got Konza there, I think you almost need a Maatsen. You need a Maatsen
to
give you the attacking outlet. Because I said this earlier on, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but he's been our assisting assister most this season, hasn't he, Maatsen? He does get involved. He does create stuff. He does take a man on. He's got pace. I think if you've got him in those attacking areas, you've got someone else to link up with the Watkins and Durans and Rodgers of the world. Dini isn't that guy.
No. And look, it just, again, it goes back to that point of you've got a lesser quality. I mean, we've said that Matty Cash, as wholehearted as he is probably the player that we would need to upgrade on. It'd be everyone's first choice position where we would need to be upgrading on. But now we're saying we have not having Cash is a massive loss, and he's the first player that we need to upgrade on. So you've got then a worse player than Matty Cash at right back position, playing in right back in Ezri Konsa, a less effective player. You've also then got Ezri Konsa as our best centre back. You've taken him out of that position and put a lesser centre back into his position. So you've weakened two positions by the fact of playing, your best player, your best centre back in his wrong position. It just doesn't make sense.
Here's a crazy question for you: would it have been worth getting Gertruder in? Obviously, that marauding, fantastic right back in no place for Leipzig, right? Getting him in and accepting the 10-point deduction. Would you have made more than 10 points up?
No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I am tongue in cheek with that, right? But you make a good point. We're all talking about we're missing Cash, and yet Cash is the one that's been the most maligned player in the squad. Period.
Exactly.
So it is a point where we can just see the balance isn't right, and the balance isn't right at all. And I think you made a good point earlier on. I think if you've got a situation where you haven't got Konsa in there, Carlos, my God, I feel like Carlos could play against the Brazil team of the 1970 World Cup and keep a clean sheet, and then he'll play my Tuesday night lot and he'll let in 5. And one of them will be an own goal. He's a weirdly frustrating player. He's got an unbelievable range of passing, and he's solid as an ox and heads everything out. And then in other times he looks like he doesn't know what the game of football is. That's adding a lack of confidence to Torres, definitely. I think Torres has been a bit unfairly critiqued this season because of a couple of scenarios, but I think largely, actually, attacking-wise, he's gone forward a bit and tried to make stuff happen. Could have had a penalty last night and all that. And I think if you've got that scenario, and then you've got the weakness at full-back as well, particularly on the right-hand side, it doesn't fill you much confidence up the pitch. And then if you've not had Kamara in there, and as we've seen, the wide players aren't very good. You've got a number of areas of your pitch there, and then your strikers are maybe not as good, particularly Watkins. You've got a number of areas of your pitch where, which department of our pitch right now are we happy with? Goalkeeper.
Even he's made a couple of errors, but
generally
it was goalkeeper, and it was centre midfield. Tielemans and Onana was very
Tielemans
good.
Has been great this season so far. I mean, the last couple of games.
And Morgan Rogers has shocked everyone. As I say, the problem is that balance. If you're not getting the ball to your forward players enough, and then when they receive the ball, they're receiving it in an area that's too deep and they've got too much to do, they're automatically going to give the ball away, or they're going to do something that means that they're going to lose it, and that's going to get more frustrating, and that just drops your team even further deeper because they're not holding it up, or they're not doing this and they're not doing that. It's all interlinked. It's all interlinked. You can't, you can't expect. Yes, Watkins hasn't been good enough, but you can't expect him to try and win and out-battle Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate from a speculative long pass from Emi Martinez or Diego Carlos. He's just not going to do it. He's got his back to goal. They've got all their forward momentum going to the ball. He's not going to do it. I don't care who you are. Erling Haaland scores goals for fun. He has about 5 touches every game. Even he wouldn't be able to hold off those players. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it's working that balance and getting the players to have that confidence to start moving through the gears again, instead of just that ponderous play across the back and then into midfield or trying to nick something, and you try and get on the hot, trying to maybe nick a little tackle or lick a little pass, and then you're trying to run from inside your own half to try and put Ollie Watkins through, or trying to put Leon Bailey through. We're just asking too much, and I don't know why we've all of a sudden gone 10 to 15 yards deeper. Stephen said we need to solve the back to fix the front.
Yep.
Richard said straight from kickoff, Carlos was clumsy and kind of set the tone. Sai said Nedeljkovic came on Wednesday and looked okay. Purple Dry said conceding off our own corners could become an issue, and we'll pin that one. I want to get your thoughts on that. Yeah, definitely. That's the next point. James said Carlos yellow card Wednesday night shows his problem. Kevin said, hey guys, I've been telling you guys Emery will mess up. One bad apple spoils the bunch. That's just it. Threw the whole team off. Ramsey injury prone. Emery should have kept Ealing Jr. Oh,
Probably
interesting.
alluding to
Interesting.
Duran there, isn't he? Probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
David said we wanted a right back from Seville. Scott UK, which challenging for the top four with Dean Smith and Steve Bruce players can't last. Was that about McGinn, is it?
Yeah.
Don't know. Ronan said, by the way, our set piece and delivery lately have been shocking. Yes,
100%,
100%.
100%.
100%. So
let me just jump in on a couple of those points, right? So, the Carlos one, right? Carlos up there. Cheers, Ronan. Thanks, mate. Carlos up there as a topic, right? Clearly he got injured. And that's why all the rumours are, or the talk is that he was supposed to go. There was links with Wolves, two of the teams. And we were supposed to be bringing in the Marauding Dutch right back. Didn't happen. We've got Carlos. He is at the moment, right? He has a great game, and then all of a sudden he's bad for like 2 games. And I think we looked at a situation where I think, should we have moved him on? Should something have happened maybe earlier in the window? I know it's not as simple as that, and the pieces don't move in the background like we think they're going to do it. And the other point I'm going to say now, and I throw it out there, and it's a bit controversial because I've changed my tune on this a little bit of time, but should we have got rid of Duran? With everything that happened, and with the perceived sort of negativity, and I know if he scores winners in the next 4 games from 40 yards, I'm going to change my mind again. But has that, as a few of the guys in the chat have alluded to, has that thrown it off a little bit? There was footage in the week of him almost like marching away from Emery when Emery said something to him, and is he a little bit too precious? And if when he scored against Bologna, Champions League game, big Premier League game of the weekend, you've just scored, you coming off the pitch, losing his kind of composure, shall we say, on the bench. I look at it and think there was opportunities made for players that weren't particularly great for the squad for whatever reason, and we've still got them, and maybe now it's hurting us. So I wanted to just get that point out there. Right, corners. Jesus.
Well, they seem to be Liverpool's best chance of attack yesterday. I mean,
when it happened the second time around, mate, honestly, that second one where I think Nunes put it over the top. I mean, everybody in the away end was going, "What are you doing?" Like, you've just seen the goal. Came out of nowhere. Came out, and it was literally like as if you had an Olympic sprint team running away from a team of snails. Like, the way they got off the pitch was unbelievable.
Was it? Would you? I mean, is it Austin McPhee here who comes under criticism?
Absolutely.
Is it the players in terms of Luca Dean maybe getting carried away and not being in the right position? I mean, poor Leon Bailey. I mean, he should have probably been sent off. To be fair, I mean, Nunes did him a favor, but like to ask him to be like 1 against 3. And then what? Do it again straight after. Honestly, I can't believe the amateurishness of that. What is going through people's heads here?
It's kind of crazy to say what I'm about to say now, but I hope everyone knows I mean this with the right kind of intention. He might have done us all a favour if Bailey had been sent off.
yeah.
It might have took him out the firing line a little bit and actually given someone else an opportunity, and he's got to get back in the team and
lose that game 5-0. But later on down the line,
you are going to lose probably at some point, aren't you? I mean, I know it's a bit negative, and I don't want Aaron Platt to get sent off, but you kind of get my point. He's forced to play him a bit now. Yeah, the first one it happened. The first one when they're going clear. I mean, Bailey probably should have been sent off. And then Nunes is rounding the keeper, and does the keeper come out a bit too far? I don't know. And I mean, again, you've got to come out at some point. But when it happened again, I remember thinking, this is unbelievable that we've done the same situation from our own corner. Keep another man back, and particularly a corner where you don't even get the ball in the box properly. I think there's a little bit of unluckiness at the moment, by the way, with our team. There was what was the goal I saw over the weekend? The João Pedro goal for Brighton
against City.
Yeah, it felt like he peppered around the box a bit, and a corner went in, and he kind of got deflected, and then he bounced one way, and then he kind of I feel like at the moment nothing's dropping for us at all.
No,
and maybe when everything's against you, there was a few times when good crosses came in, it didn't quite land, and it's all coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and you've got to create more chances than you concede, all that kind of stuff. But if you're gonna do that, you can't just have like somebody.
You can't have it 1v1 at the back. You can't.
With Salah and Nunes
ridiculous.
And the likes of that, and Diaz racing at you. I mean, you're asking for trouble, aren't you? You're asking for trouble. You just are.
I mean, and then in the second half, it was our own throw-in. and they did it again. They scored again.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, they look threatening and dangerous going forward, but the three big, or probably four big opportunities they had came, and this is obviously a tactic that they use. We know that Liverpool use this tactic. We know that they're super quick on the break. We know that, but the four big chances that they had, because don't forget, Konza saved us with that match-saving, goal-saving tackle as well.
Yeah.
When they were through, they were all four of those opportunities. The two in the first half, the two in the second half. So 2 goals from 4 opportunities came from us being on the attack, and
Yeah.
I just, and I don't know, man. That I know I know Emery had a big go at Austin McPhee one of the games. I think it was the Bologna game, and since then it doesn't seem to have been going too well for Mr. McPhee of late. I don't know how responsible he is for defensive set pieces, but the Bournemouth goal right at the last minute set piece, the 2 goals in against Liverpool from our own attacking set pieces. It is not looking good for that guy at the minute.
Listen, football's hard, right? And if a team does something good on the pitch that you're playing against, they can score a goal against anybody, right? We've seen that, plenty of examples of that. So you can, you're not going to block every cross, right? And sometimes an attacking break, and sometimes you're going to get caught in the counter attack. We've obviously been a team that's done it in the past particularly well. But the combination of all these things in a moment, like you say, it's not just giving away the free kick against Bournemouth, it's then absolutely leaving someone just on their own to flick in a header. It was just such an obvious thing. Twice last night, getting caught once with a goal and nearly a second time. When you've got it at the other end of the pitch, getting caught totally like as if you've got one man against 3. I mean, we haven't spoke about it in specifics, but their second goal, Carlos just heads it to Salah, basically. Like, head it out.
you do, but you did say that there's a little bit of I guess when it's going against you, like I think he's trying to head it like over him or to a player to kind of keep our attack going, and like had it been like 2 inches higher, it would be like, that's really well played, Carlos. Great, really relaxed and composed, just not just heading it out of the pitch. But I definitely take your point. I mean, yeah, you just think. So I also think, why isn't anyone getting a cheap yellow card further up the pitch? Where's the streetwise Villa gone? Like, remember when we played against teams like Bournemouth or Newcastle or whatever, and we would try and make attacks, and they would just literally trade yellow cards around each of their midfielders because then stop us from getting forward. Why isn't that happening with Villa? Like, we're just too easy at the minute. Again, too easy to play against this soft centre.
Yeah, and that cheap yellow card thing is an interesting one, because it feels like the only yellow cards we're getting at the moment are just silly yellow cards. They're not tactical. They're not like saving. No. It's like getting annoyed at like something and shouting at the ref or something, and then getting it. Like at the other night, both of them on yellow cards early on against Bruges. Let's clear something up, by the way, because I have the highlights that I've seen back. Because obviously I was in the away end, at the opposite end to their first goal, and same end where Salah scored the second. So I saw the Watkins Kanate sort of situation pretty well. I didn't see the Torres Gravenberch situation very well. The Watkins Kanate one I thought was a penalty when I saw it. And I think anywhere else on the pitch that's a penalty. I think he pushes him. I think he pushes
the one
him
where Watkins dives.
Well, he might go down quite easily, but I think there's a clear push. I think there's a clear shove.
Brad. The only one I think we had a shout for a penalty was Bradley on Pau Torres. He pulled his shirt. It was a set piece, and he literally pulled his shirt.
I've seen the still of it.
He probably would have got. I mean, whether the ball was directed to him, he was going for the near post, and he pulled him back. And I think that was a yellow. That was a penalty. The Watkins one, I would be really disappointed had that be given against us. I think I don't think it's a foul at all.
I'd be interested to see what everyone says in the comments on this. But I honestly look at it and think anywhere else on the pitch, I think that's a free kick. And theatrical or not, I think he's clearly shoved him out of the way. And I just look at it and think maybe I'm clutching at straws because it gets us to 1-1. But I reckon at the other end, that's a penalty to Liverpool. I genuinely do.
I think he could have stayed on his feet, if I'm being honest with you. And then the Torres one at the
Well,
that they
sorry. Can I
got.
just say, Rich, if Ibrahima Konate pushed the rock, he'd fall over. Like
Mate, I
that's a
don't
bit
think.
harsh. It's a bit
Honestly,
harsh.
I
He could have
don't.
stayed on his feet. I think it's
I haven't.
Konate's a
I
unit.
saw, mate. I saw replays after. I don't think he hardly touched him. He hardly. It's nowhere near a penalty. I'll say it now. Nowhere near a penalty.
Wow. Okay.
That's my opinion.
We will disagree.
Pau Torres is I thought was worthy of a penalty. And then the one at the end, the one where it kind of then turned into Salah's goal, he didn't even touch him. I don't know what he went down for there. It was ridiculous.
And Salah's goal as well. Why didn't Konza try and stop him? Konza, I don't know if you've seen about Konza runs towards the ball and then thinks he's going to square it. Thinks he's going to square it. And runs away.
Yeah,
you've got to go to the first source of trouble.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that. Salah just delayed it a tiny bit, but I kind of understood why Konsa did what he did, because he's literally free against
through unopposed.
No, but like you think, right? Okay, well, I'll cut back there to think, oh, I'll try and second guess him because he might cross it, and then I'll block the cross. But
yeah, I guess
at the same point, you maybe if he's going there, you're giving the goalkeeper an opportunity to come out and maybe smother it or save it because he's then going to shoot. But yeah, he was always going to score anyway, regardless.
Yeah, I just think you've got an opportunity to maybe, like, if you narrow the angle enough, whilst blocking him getting the shot off, at least then he's got to do something, hasn't he? And I think he was always going to give the keeper the eyes, wasn't he? Which is obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, as Ronan said, they hit the like button. I haven't given them any reminders. We've been too busy chatting away, but we've got almost 300 watching, which is fantastic on a Sunday night. Make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. If you're on X, hit the like button. Follow us at Villa Park Pod at KTAVFC and hit the retweet button as well. Help spread the word. Rona said Pau pen, Watkins not. Scotty agrees with you on Konsa. He ran away. Kay said they were both very quick VAR checks for me, but the ref was poor all game. Thought the shirt pull was the worst of the two. Yeah, he's poor for both teams, to be honest. And I think maybe Carlos was lucky not to give away a penalty at the start of the game.
Do you know what? It goes two ways, doesn't it, to be fair? And actually, even though we joke about it, like Bailey could have been sent off, but, you got to give him credit for playing on there from a Liverpool perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Just to finish up on, I guess, what you sort of mentioned about the maybe a bit of perspective in terms of other teams not doing very well and the league being as tight as it is. There's a potential, quality fatigue issue with teams in the Premier League this season. But I don't think we could have a better manager to get us out of this kind of bit of a malaise at the moment than Unai Emery.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very valid point, right? And I'm glad you brought this up as a topic, because we've started the pod with, I did my usual sort of like, plea for calm. It's a Carabao Cup. It's a European game. It's two games against Liverpool and Spurs, right? And then we've gone through the whole, it's not good enough in many areas. If there is one manager that you think you would back to turn it around, then it's our Spanish magician, Mr. Unai Emery. We can't forget, despite the last four games, what he has done in this 2 years has been nothing short of a miracle. We're getting towards the end of the year, in Christmas and all that. Well, this is our very own miracle that we had, in November 2023. And it's easy to have a short memory, isn't it, in football, because you get frustrated. Hey, Ange Postecoglou is getting pelters. Arteta is getting pelters. Absolutely. So, these are managers that all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, it was like, oh, fantastic. Aren't they doing great? We're going to win the league with Arsenal, and Spurs are amazing. We've just battered Villa. So, you know what? It is a competitive league, and no one's got a divine right to do anything in this league. But what he's done, I think he'll get it right. The first decision he needs to make is to Alex Ferguson the Morgan Rogers situation, and say, oh yeah, he's got his lower back sore or just some rubbish to get him off that under 21 duty, which he's doing nothing for him other than getting a few under 21 caps. If he's got designs to be in the England squad, then they'll pick you if you're good enough. That's one thing that needs to happen. I think he needs to be a bit less loyal to some of these players that aren't performing. And I think we're seeing that now. And I think he needs to make sure he makes some tough decisions. And I include in that Austin McPhee in terms of the staff, because we talk about, is he? I don't know if he does defensive set pieces. From what I know, he's a set piece coach, and defensively, we have been shocking in terms of our performances generally, but set pieces wise, not very good at all. And I don't think offensively lately we've been particularly good. I know
No,
he's not the one. He's not the
we've
one
just
kicking
been
the ball.
basic. It's literally just put the ball in the box. There's not really any imagination anymore. It used to be like really imaginative. It's like, I'll just put the ball in the box.
Yeah, and I know he's not the one delivering the ball right, so you can't be fooled on that. But I would say one thing, right? Yesterday was a couple of times, Dean your first half, Mattson second half, where I thought the pullback was on that side of the on the left hand side corner, like because they'd left. I think Diaz was the closest at one point, and the pullback was definitely on for them to either get a shot off or whip the ball in from then the corner of the box. And then other times we're putting it in, and then you've got Van Dijk and Kanate just going, Gravenberch just going, thanks very much. It seems like the decision making on the set piece. What was that one, that game where they did a to me to you, to me to you, to me to you, to me to you? Like one ran, the other one ran.
Oh, I don't know. It was ridiculous.
It feels like the inventiveness has gone. You get all the plaudits when Tielemans puts a corner in, and you 6'5" Onana heads it in on the open day of the season within so quickly into the game that you and I were still finishing off our ciders or beers, whatever, and didn't even see it, right? Because we get crazy, right? Because we queued for so long, didn't we? Idiots, right? But is that great set piece coaching, or is it just a good cross into the box? I know we had the one against Leicester where obviously Ramsey takes it in his stride, squares it for Onana. But I don't think we've seen that many fantastic set pieces and defensively. So I think that's something else he needs to sort out. I think the other thing he needs to sort out, I think, is just a situation around getting us a bit of an identity back. Because at the moment, I'm not sure what our identity is on that pitch. And other teams, we had an identity when we played High Line, didn't we?
Yeah.
We knew what we were doing. We were catching you offside more times than anyone ever done in the history of the world, basically. And yeah, we're a bit clueless. We're a bit toothless. We need to get the confidence back.
And we used to start games quickly, Kev. We used to
start games quickly. We did. Yeah.
We used to be 1 or 2-0 up.
Man United started off, didn't it?
Yeah. Like at the moment, I think Si's put it there, walking football. It's like we're trying to portray this image that we're this calm, cool, and collected team. But then we're not actually doing anything with any purpose. Like it's we're 2-0 down, but we're still going to play this cool, calm, and collected football. It's like, no,
it's so frustrating.
You've got to go and try and win a game of football.
Can I do another thing that annoys me as well? Sorry, I feel like I'm bipolar tonight. I'm going, oh yeah, chill out, everyone. It's fine. We're going to be okay. I'll tell you another thing that annoys me. like, all right, Kev, which side of the fence are you on? Somebody said it, player or manager, after the Bruges game. Words to the effect of, when they scored, that was the game over. And there was a game recently when it might have been the Spurs game, or someone said, well, when it went to 2-0, that was the game done. There's been plenty of games where teams have been 1 or 2 goals behind and they've gone on to win or draw the game. Even in Aston Villa, this season against Wolves and Everton, we were behind 2 to Everton, 1 to Wolves. We came back to win the game. Liverpool last season, 3-1, 10 minutes to go, we draw the game. It feels a bit of a defeatist attitude from a team that seemed to have no excuses and were very accountable. It was definitely said by someone, when they scored that goal, that was always going to be hard then. You're Aston Villa against Club Bruges. Like, let's go. Let's win the game. You 2 down against Spurs away. Yeah, it's always going to be hard then. Well, get the next goal back and maybe you can turn it around. I'm sure it's going to be pretty hard for Ipswich playing Spurs, at the Spurs stadium. It just feels like there's a little bit of an excusey kind of moaning. And I will say one other thing on this. I saw Unai talking about the penalties and the decisions in the VAR, and it was like, of course we have to respect the ref, and he did all his usual thing, right? But normally he just says respect the ref. Doesn't give any kind of excuses behind it. And I wonder if there's a little bit of an excuse culture creeping in terms of a lack of accountability, a lack of sort of taking responsibility for things, and a lack of taking the ball by the horns. You're Aston Villa, you're 1 or 2 down. It was only 2 or 2 months ago we were given a massive plaudits for getting back into games. Do we, in hindsight, look at that and go, well, it was only Wolves and Everton, so it ain't that impressive?
Yeah, I think, like you say, we trust him to turn it around. It's just, I think there just needs to be a bit of a mindset, mentality shift, getting back to kind of what made us good. And I think I kind of understand why they're trying to use that conservation of energy when they've got the ball and trying to lull teams in and kind of make teams kind of work harder, and then turn it around towards the end of the game. And we talk about the burnout that we had in sort of February onwards last season. So there's all of those reasons, but the problem is the position in the league could be done by the time you get to February or March, and that's if you've lost, end up losing games against the likes of Crystal Palace or Brentford at home or Southampton at home, which we've got 3 home league games at the next 4 after the international break, then we are kind of in trouble. And look, Newcastle were in this situation a couple of weeks ago, and they've beaten Arsenal, they've beaten Nottingham Forest. So we can turn around this in a few weeks and say, look, that was a little bit of a blip. We're around it now. The players are playing well. They're full of confidence and all that kind of stuff. But we're at that position, like you said before, where we need to win the next game, and we need to kind of turn that form around a little bit.
Well, I was just looking actually, Troy, you're talking then about the fixtures, and as you say, Palace, then a Juve, obviously big game, then Chelsea, Brentford, Southampton, 2 home games in a row. You've got to say, I mean, Brentford, Southampton, Forest away won't be easy, but then you've got Man City, Newcastle, and Brighton at the end of December. We've seen Aston Villa beat Man City, Arsenal, Bayern Munich, and we've seen us beat some teams. It feels like in the games against big teams this season, big teams in inverted commas, we weren't that bad against Liverpool, and you could have got a penalty to make it 1-1. Then it's a different game. I know we made some mistakes, but I felt like we didn't get blown away, right? Spurs, all right, poor performance second half. Arsenal probably should have won that game. Should have been 2-0 up. Bayern Munich, we won that game. So I actually think we've shown we can still compete. It's actually been the slightly more winnable games that we seem to have struggled with. So, you make that point there, Rich. I look at it and think maybe you're not going to catch if Man City go flying, and they're still second in the league and they'll probably get it back. Liverpool are already 10 points clear of us. But there was a real opportunity for us to have already cemented our position in that top 4 when we know that Chelsea, Newcastle, Spurs, etc., other teams around Arsenal, maybe Man United under Amorim, whatever, are going to get their act together. I don't want us to be in a situation where we end up finishing 5th, 6th, or 7th in the season when we could have cemented top 4 2 years in a row. And I'll say it before and I'll say it again. That is the most important thing for our club, I think, at the moment, is to consistently get in that Champions League position, get the revenues in, be able to attract the players, and cement yourself as one of those top teams. You do it for a season and bounce out of it, and then you play in that same game that plenty of teams have done before, and it's so hard to get back there. And this is a missed opportunity at the moment. Plenty of time to get it back, but the players need to find something from somewhere, some extra fight, some extra motivation, and we need to get the squad back fit, and we need to get Kamara in that team, and we need to get a right back playing at right back.
Definitely. Yeah, Carl says another super chat. Thank you so much, mate. Need to go hard for Nico Williams in January. I think that would be amazing if we could, but I'm not sure if that happens. Recall Ealing Jr. and send Jaden back to Hull to increase his trade value so we can make a profit. I do think there'll be an interesting January to come. We will definitely wait and see for that. But Kev, I think we've exhausted that game. I think we've gone over everything. Hopefully, we have an international break to turn it around. I know lots of players will be going out on international duty, but they'll still have time when they're back to sort of train and get focused for that Crystal Palace game and turn it around, which I'm sure Unai Emery will. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for all your comments and for all of your and for the super chats and everything like that as well. Please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Nearly 300 watching tonight, which is just phenomenal stuff. So thank you for all of your support. We'll be back with plenty more shows this week. We've got Fans Forum on Tuesday where we'll cover everything on and off the pitch. Aston Villa, I'm sure we'll talk transfers as well. We've got the latest Lions Den, latest with Academy AVFC to come this week as well, rounding up all of the news for the Aston Villa Academy and the youth players on loan. I think Villa play on Tuesday night as well in that EFL trophy. So that'll be interesting as well to see the young lads in action. I think it's on Sky Sports Plus. So yeah, loads of shows to come. Like I said before, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.